Everyone looked up to Kelly Cohen because of her tenacity and willpower. She was 34 years old and had spent the majority of her life in the bustling city of San Francisco. Kelly wasn't simply another face in the crowd. She was a self-reliant, diligent individual who had overcome obstacles in life to establish a prosperous career for herself. But there were challenges along the way in her journey. As the only child of Dr. William Cohan and Margaret Cohan, Kelly was raised in a loving household. Both were well-regarded medical professionals who operated a private clinic in the center of the city. Kelly was exposed to discussions about medicine and helping people from an early age, which had a significant impact on her perspective on life. Although Kelly's parents wanted her to follow in their footsteps, she decided against it. She got a position at a prestigious software company after earning her degree in computer technology. She was promoted over the years as a result of her abilities and commitment, and she quickly rose to the position of team lead, overseeing a skilled group of developers and managing challenging projects. Kelly maintained her groundedness in spite of her career success. Her father instilled in her the belief that relationships are more important than accomplishments. Her family was her entire universe as a child, not just a source of support. Kelly had a particularly close relationship with her father, who frequently gave her life lessons on lengthy rides or peaceful evening walks. On the other side, her mother gave her emotional support and always pushed her to reach new heights and follow her aspirations. But when Kelly lost her mother in a terrible vehicle accident in her mid-20s, her life took a devastating turn. Kelly and her father were heartbroken by the unexpected loss. Their once vibrant home felt empty for a long time. However, Kelly leaned on her father for support and found comfort in her profession rather than allowing grief to control her. They overcame the challenging times together, leaning on one another for support. Years later, tragedy struck once more, right as Kelly believed life was settling into a predictable pattern. A terminal cancer diagnosis was made for her father, who had supported her through everything. Kelly was devastated by the news. It hurt to see her father, who had previously been so vibrant, progressively deteriorate. However, Kelly remained loyal to herself and did not allow her feelings to control her. She made sure her father felt loved and cared for by spending as much time as she could with him. Kelly stayed a fighter despite all the highs and lows. She was a strong, compassionate, and determined lady whose traits would soon be put to the test in ways she never could have predicted. During one of the most difficult times in her life, Kelly met Jack Turner. Her mother had passed away unexpectedly not long before, and the loss was too much to take. Kelly was just trying to keep herself together and help her father at the moment, not seeking friendship. However, destiny had other ideas. At a casual meal, Jack introduced himself to Kelly through a mutual friend, and his laid-back demeanor immediately put her at ease. Jack's ability to make others laugh and his cool head stood in sharp contrast to Kelly's mental turmoil. Instead of avoiding her sorrow or attempting to ignore it, he listened to her with patience as she related tales of her mother and the loss she was finding difficult to comprehend. "You don't need to go through this alone, Kelly," was a common statement made by Jack, and eventually it started to seem like a promise. Their bond developed organically. Jack established himself as a constant in her life, providing assistance when she most needed it. He encouraged her to take breaks from work, gave her coffee on hectic mornings, and even assisted her father with errands when Kelly was feeling overburdened. It meant the world to Kelly that he was not only kind to her, but also to her family. Like chapters in a well-written book, their relationship's milestones came and went as their love became stronger. At a peaceful picnic in Golden Gate Park 2 years after they first met, Jack asked Kelly to marry him. Simple, sincere, and passionate, it was the ideal gesture for them. not a big show with fireworks or a throng. Kelly thought she had found someone who would support her no matter what, so she said yes without hesitation. Her father, still grieving the loss of his wife, was overjoyed to see his daughter finding happiness again. However, not everything about their journey was smooth. When Kelly met Jack's mother for the first time, she couldn't ignore the nagging sense of unease. Mina Turner was a striking woman with sharp features and an even sharper tongue. Divorced from Jack's father, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who always got what she wanted. But her words often felt like daggers cloaked in silk. "So this is Kelly," Mina had said during their first meeting, her eyes scanning Kelly from head to toe. "You're a little older than I expected for Jack, aren't you? But I suppose brains make up for looks in some cases." Kelly was stunned by the comment, but chose to remain polite, determined to make a good impression. Jack quickly stepped in to defend her, mentioning Kelly's career achievements and her family's respected background. While Mina's attitude softened after hearing about Kelly's financial stability, the exchange left Kelly feeling uneasy. It was clear that Mina's approval came with strings attached. Despite this rocky start, Kelly chose to focus on her future with Jack, hoping that any tensions with his mother would ease over time. What she didn't realize was that this was only the beginning of a much larger challenge. Kelly and Jack's married life began on a high note. They moved into a beautiful apartment in San Francisco that Kelly's father had gifted them as a wedding present. It was modern, spacious, and filled with possibilities for a happy future. Kelly dreamed of creating a warm, loving home where they could build their life together. In the beginning, everything seemed promising. Jack would occasionally surprise Kelly with small gestures, like bringing flowers or planning a casual date night, which made her believe they were settling into a perfect partnership. However, as the honeymoon phase began to fade, Kelly noticed cracks in their life together. While she juggled a demanding job in tech and household responsibilities, Jack's carefree attitude toward their new life started becoming more apparent. Before their marriage, Jack had always appeared supportive and kind. But after moving in together, Kelly realized he had little experience with basic household responsibilities. Jack didn't know how to cook, operate the washing machine, or even keep their home tidy. "I've never been good at these things," he'd shrug when Kelly asked for help. At first, Kelly took on the chores, thinking it was temporary. "He'll adjust to married life," she told herself. But Jack showed no interest in learning or sharing the workload. Instead, he left garbage lying around, ignored chores, and acted as though Kelly's efforts were just part of her role as his wife. Whenever she brought it up, Jack brushed her concerns aside with a casual, "You're better at it than I am, so why not just handle it?" What hurt Kelly the most wasn't just the chores, it was Jack's indifference. He seemed to believe that his job was the only contribution he needed to make to their marriage, while Kelly carried the weight of both work and home. Over time, her exhaustion and frustration grew. Adding to the strain was Jack's mother, Mina. She was a frequent visitor to their home, often arriving unannounced and criticizing Kelly's efforts to create a peaceful space. "This apartment is nice, but you could decorate it better," Mina would comment while inspecting the furniture. Kelly tried to keep the peace, going out of her way to make Mina feel welcome. She sent her thoughtful gifts for birthdays and Mother's Day, hoping to win her approval. But Mina found fault in everything. One year, Kelly gifted her a high-quality scarf, only to hear Mina complain, "This isn't from a luxury brand. Couldn't you have picked something better?" Worse, Mina constantly asked Jack for money, claiming she needed it for emergencies or new expenses. Jack never hesitated to hand over cash, even when it stretched their own finances thin. "It's my mom, I can't say no," he'd tell Kelly whenever she protested. Jack's generosity toward his mother and his lack of financial planning soon began to take a toll. Though Kelly earned a good salary, Jack's spending habits were reckless. He often splurged on unnecessary items, justifying it with, "What's the point of working hard if we can't enjoy ourselves?" To make matters worse, Jack started using their Joy credit card for extravagant purchases without consulting Kelly. New gadgets, expensive dinners, and even gifts for his mother all began to pile up on their account. Kelly's attempts to set a budget or talk about their expenses were met with resistance. "You're overthinking it," Jack would say. "We'll figure it out." As their savings dwindled, Kelly felt the pressure mounting. She had worked hard to build a stable life, and now it felt like everything was slipping through her fingers. Between Jack's careless behavior, Mina's constant demands, and her own workload, Kelly began to feel trapped in a marriage that was nothing like the partnership she had envisioned. One evening, Kelly received a phone call that would change her life forever. Her father, Dr. William Cohen, who she hadn't seen in a few weeks due to her busy schedule, asked to meet her in person. When they sat down together at a quiet cafe, she noticed an unusual heaviness in his demeanor. After a long pause, her father gently broke the news. He had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and treatment was no longer an option. The words hit Kelly like a thunderbolt. Tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to process what she had just heard. "No, Dad, there must be something we can do," she said, her voice shaking. But her father, always calm and pragmatic, held her hand and said, "Kelly, this is just how life works sometimes. Let's not focus on what we can't change. Let's make the most of the time we have left." Despite his attempt to comfort her, Kelly couldn't contain her grief. Losing her mother years earlier had been devastating, and the thought of losing her father too felt unbearable. But she knew she had to stay strong for him. From that moment on, Kelly's life became a delicate balancing act. She started visiting her father almost every day, spending time at his bedside in the hospital, and managing his care as the illness progressed. She took on more responsibilities, handling his medical appointments, managing his bills, and ensuring he was as comfortable as possible. At the same time, Kelly was already overwhelmed with work and the endless household responsibilities she had been carrying on her own. Sleep became a luxury as she juggled everything, often staying up late into the night to complete tasks she didn't have time for during the day. Despite her exhaustion, Kelly never complained. "Dad was there for me through everything," she told herself. "The least I can do is be there for him now." Her father, even in his declining health, noticed the toll it was taking on her. One day, during one of her hospital visits, he asked her, "Kelly, how is everything at home? How's your marriage with Jack?" Kelly hesitated. She didn't want to burden her father with her marital troubles, but her silence spoke volumes. Her father gave her hand a reassuring squeeze and said, "You don't have to endure anything that makes you unhappy. You deserve better, Kelly. Don't ever forget that." Those words stayed with her, becoming a source of quiet strength during the storm. Amid all this, Jack's reaction to her father's illness was starkly indifferent. When Kelly told him about the diagnosis, his response was a half-hearted, "That's tough. I hope you're holding up okay." There were no offers of help, no comforting words, and no genuine concern. Instead, Jack continued with his routine as if nothing had changed. Kelly pleaded with him to at least visit her father in the hospital, but Jack showed up only once. Even then, he spent most of the time scrolling through his phone. "I've got a lot on my plate too, Kelly," he'd say whenever she asked for his support. His mother, Mina, was no better. Instead of offering condolences or help, she made insensitive remarks like, "Well, at least he's had a good run." The lack of empathy from Jack and his mother cut Kelly deeply. She felt isolated, as though the weight of the world was on her shoulders with no one to share it with. The man she had once believed would be her rock in times of need was proving to be anything but. Through it all, Kelly kept going, fueled by her love for her father and a quiet determination to honor his strength and legacy. Even as her own world began to crumble, she vowed to make his remaining days as peaceful as possible. The inevitable moment came one quiet afternoon. Kelly had been sitting by her father's bedside at the hospital, holding his hand when his breathing slowed and finally stopped. For a few seconds, the world seemed to stand still. Kelly stared at him, unable to comprehend that the man who had been her rock, her guide, and her biggest supporter was gone. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of the loss hit her. Yet, amidst the overwhelming sorrow, she found a small comfort in knowing that she had been there for him until the very end. Dr. William Cohen had faced his illness with dignity and courage, and Kelly vowed to honor his memory by living a life he would be proud of. The days that followed were a whirlwind of funeral arrangements and condolences. Friends, family, and former patients of her father gathered to pay their respects, sharing stories about the incredible impact he had on their lives. It was a heartfelt farewell to a man who had touched so many. However, in the midst of the grief, Kelly felt an undeniable loneliness. Jack and Mina attended the funeral, but their presence was detached and superficial. Jack didn't lift a finger to help with the arrangements, and Mina seemed more concerned with appearances than offering genuine support. A week after the funeral, Kelly received a call from her father's lawyer, Mr. Jenkins, requesting a meeting to discuss her father's estate. Still emotionally drained, Kelly attended the meeting, expecting to handle a few formalities. What she didn't anticipate was the sheer scale of what her father had left behind. Mr. Jenkins explained that her father had been not only a successful doctor, but also a savvy investor in real estate. After settling all taxes and liabilities, the remaining estate was worth over $3 million. In addition to this financial legacy, her father had left her ownership of the private healthcare business he had built and cherished. As his only child, Kelly was the sole beneficiary of the inheritance. Kelly sat in stunned silence as the lawyer detailed the assets and investments her father had meticulously managed. She had always known him to be a man of principles and hard work, but she hadn't realized just how much he had accomplished. Along with the wealth came a heartfelt letter her father had written to her, urging her to use the inheritance wisely and to follow her own happiness. Kelly, the letter read, "This is my gift to you, a way to ensure that you never have to compromise on your dreams. You have always made me proud, and I know you'll make the right choices. Remember, your happiness matters most." As Kelly left the lawyer's office, a mix of emotions washed over her. She felt gratitude for her father's foresight and love, but also the heavy responsibility of honoring his wishes. She knew the inheritance would change her life, but she couldn't have predicted just how much turmoil it would soon bring. It didn't take long for Jack and Mina's true colors to surface. After Kelly inherited her father's estate, just days after learning about the $3 million inheritance, Jack began rifling through the legal documents Kelly had brought home from the lawyer's office without her permission. When Kelly confronted him, Jack dismissed her concerns with a condescending tone. "Kelly, don't be so greedy," he said with a smirk. "This money isn't just yours. It's for us now, and Mom deserves a share too. After all, she's family." Mina chimed in with a self-satisfied laugh, her voice dripping with entitlement. Finally, Jack, "Now we can live the life we've always deserved." That old man did something right for a change. Kelly's heart sank hearing her late father referred to so disrespectfully. It felt like a slap in the face. The people who were supposed to support her during this difficult time were now treating her father's legacy as nothing more than a lottery ticket. Feeling cornered, Kelly struggled to find a way to handle the situation. Jack and Mina's demands became relentless. They pushed Kelly to transfer the inheritance into a joint account, insisting that they would manage the money together. Whenever she hesitated, Jack guilt-tripped her. "Don't you trust me, Kelly? What kind of marriage is this if we can't share everything?" Mina, on the other hand, wasn't shy about playing the victim. "After all I've done for this family, is it so wrong for me to expect a little comfort in my old age?" Overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted, Kelly felt she had no choice but to give in. She transferred a portion of her savings into their joint account to keep the peace. Despite her growing unease, she forced a smile and said, "Sure, use it as you see fit," all the while feeling trapped in her own home. The moment Jack and Mina gained access to the funds, their behavior shifted drastically. They began treating Kelly's inheritance as a never-ending supply of wealth. Jack quit his job, claiming, "Why bother working when we're sitting on millions?" Mina practically moved into their home, turning it into her personal base for endless shopping sprees and extravagant outings. The duo spent recklessly on luxury brand items, fine dining, and vacations. Mina often returned home with bags from high-end stores, bragging about her latest purchases. "The scarves Kelly used to give me were a joke compared to this," she exclaimed one evening, showing off a designer handbag she had bought with Kelly's money. Jack and Mina's spending spree wasn't limited to the inheritance. They also began withdrawing large sums from Kelly's hard-earned savings, including $100,000 from their joint account. Kelly watched in disbelief as the balance dwindled, powerless to stop them. When she confronted Jack about their reckless spending, he shrugged and laughed. "What's the big deal? The inheritance will cover it. Just relax and let us enjoy life for once." Kelly's frustration and anger grew, but Jack and Mina dismissed her concerns as if they were trivial. It was clear they had no intention of stopping, and Kelly began to realize that if she didn't take a stand soon, her father's legacy and her own financial stability would be completely destroyed. Kelly had reached her breaking point. Watching Jack and Mina recklessly spend her father's legacy, insult her late father, and deplete her hard-earned savings was more than she could tolerate. Quietly, she began to plan her next move. One morning, after Jack and Mina left for a lavish shopping spree, Kelly made her decision. She contacted a locksmith and had the locks on their apartment changed. She also opened a new account, transferring the remaining $50,000 from their joint account to her personal account to prevent further misuse. Then she packed Jack and Mina's belongings into boxes and placed them near the front door. By the time they returned home, Kelly was ready. When they tried to enter the apartment, the keys no longer worked. Jack pounded on the door while Mina yelled, "Kelly, open up." "What is the meaning of this?" Calmly, Kelly spoke through the intercom. "I've changed the locks. We'll talk, but not here. Meet me at the cafe around the corner." At the cafe, Jack and Mina arrived furious, their voices rising as they demanded an explanation. Kelly sat across from them, her demeanor calm but resolute. She placed a piece of paper on the table. It was a divorce petition. "I'm done, Jack," she said firmly. "This marriage is over. I've had enough of your grief, your disrespect, and your complete lack of support." Jack's face twisted in disbelief. "Divorce? You can't be serious. What about the money? What about everything we've built together?" Mina chimed in, her tone incredulous. "After everything we've done for you, Kelly, this is how you repay us." Kelly didn't flinch. "What you've done for me? All you've done is treat me like an ATM and insult my father's memory. This ends now. You're not getting another cent from me." Hearing this, Jack tried to regain control. His voice rising, he said, "You think you can walk away and keep everything. The inheritance belongs to both of us. It's marital property, and I'll get my share in the divorce." Kelly leaned back, her confidence unwavering. "Actually, you're wrong, Jack. Inheritance isn't considered marital property. It's legally mine, and you're not entitled to any of it." Jack's smug expression quickly faded. That can't be true. "Mom, check this. She's lying." Mina fumbled with her phone, frantically searching for legal information. Her face went pale as she read the confirmation. Property inherited by one spouse is considered separate property, Kelly added, quoting the law. "So no, you're not getting a penny from my father's estate." Jack's disbelief turned to desperation. "Kelly, please don't do this. I don't have a job. I have no savings. How am I supposed to live?" Kelly looked at him, her voice steady but firm. "That's not my problem, Jack. You brought this on yourself. Take responsibility for your actions." For the first time, Jack and Mina seemed truly powerless. They sat in stunned silence as Kelly stood up, sliding the divorce papers across the table. "Sign the papers and stay out of my life," she said before walking away, leaving them to face the reality of their grief-fueled downfall. Following Kelly's resolute decision, Jack and Mina's world fell apart. They soon found themselves in financial ruin since they were unable to access Kelly's funds or inheritance. Jack was left without money after quitting his job amid their careless spending binge. In the meantime, they accrued unmanageable debt from their extravagant joint credit card expenditures. When their creditors arrived, Jack and Mina found it difficult to make even the smallest payments. They were forced to move into a tiny, dilapidated apartment on the outskirts of the city after being forced to downsize significantly. Mina, who was once fixated on projecting an image of high society, was now employed as a cashier at a nearby grocery. Jack took up a number of odd jobs in an attempt to make ends meet. But his entitled attitude and lack of abilities made it difficult for him to hold any of them. Their opulent way of life had faded into the past as the harsh reality of debt and toil took its place. The consequences didn't end there. When his avarice and abuse of Kelly were exposed, Jack's standing in his social circle was ruined. He became even more shunned once Kelly subtly revealed his infidelity throughout the divorce procedures. Mina's socialite acquaintances rejected her because they thought she was a liability, despite the fact that she had thrived on status and influence. Things started to get better for Kelly. Now that she had the bequest safely in her possession, she decided to pay tribute to her father by turning his private healthcare company into a nonprofit organization. Her father would have loved the organization's mission of giving underprivileged people access to free and reasonably priced medical treatment. In addition, Kelly sold the apartment she and Jack had shared and moved to her father's former country home for comfort. She adopted a calmer, more subdued way of life there. Without Jack and Mina's poisonous influence, the beautiful surroundings allowed her the mental room she needed to recover and start over. Both personally and professionally, Kelly flourished. She met new acquaintances, reunited with old ones, and even found time to take up long-neglected hobbies. She developed a passion for her work with the foundation and found great satisfaction in knowing that she was improving the lives of others. When Kelly looked back on her journey, she saw how far she had come. "Your happiness matters most," her father's final words became her motto. She made a commitment to always put her own health first and to never allow someone to take advantage of her again. Kelly's tenacity and resolve demonstrated that even in the face of treachery, it is possible to take back your life and come out stronger than before, while Jack and Mina's demise served as a sobering warning of what greed and entitlement may lead to. Kelly had a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in years as a result of her newfound independence and purposeful destiny. She was at last able to live the life she had earned, one that was full of strength, thankfulness, and the unfailing remembrance of her father's love.